Welcome to the CIT 94 recording on the discussion forum OOP. In this instructional video, we'll quickly look at object-oriented programming in PHP and see how that applies to our discussion forum or guestbook program. To turn our non-OOP discussion forum into an object-oriented, we'll basically follow 5 steps. Number 1, we'll create the class of the object that we're going to create. We'll use require. You may use include or require. Number 3, we'll instantiate the object. We'll create a new object from the class. We'll write the object to our server, to an external file, and then we'll read the object from the file. So our structure will be the same as the discussion forum that we set up, but we'll use an object. The XHTML for the forum is basically the same as the discussion board program, non-OOP. The difference is, you'll see the difference when you click on post. The first difference that you'll see is this PHP statement that says require underscore once, and it is kind of this strange looking PHP page that's class underscore form entry. You could name this anything you want, but by convention, PHP files that contain that are classes, that contain class definitions, or I'm seeing this a lot now, are prefaced with class. So the require once is preferred rather than include, but the require once says make everything on this page available to this script that's now running. Notice the post is the same. This is where we create a new object to hold the data. The reserved word or keyword new reserves word on the heap. The heap is a special region of memory that's not the stack. Don't mean to be cute about that, but it's just not the stack. The stack is very important, and for those of you that crashed a program through memory leaks, that's probably what happened, is you have overflowed the stack. Anyway, space for the object is created on the heap, and then a reference to it is returned, and that reference is grabbed here with this, the entry. So the basics to object-oriented programming: you have to have a class. We have our class here. We'll look at that in just a second. And to create an object or instantiate an object from the class, you use the reserved word new. At this point, I have an object, the entry. And the entry looks like the class. Here's the class. The class has member variables. These are also called attributes or fields in other object-oriented languages. The private, this is a access specification. This means that this variable here, this member variable, is only available to functions and code within this class. So I cannot access this outside of the class. In other words, when I create an object, I cannot directly access guest name. This is very important because the controlling the access makes up what we call the interface. This is how other objects interact with the object that I've created. Other objects or programs interact with the object through its exposed functions, which are called methods, and its attributes. In this case, there are no public attributes, so the interface for this object is handled with these get and set methods that I have here. In object-oriented programming, typically a function is called a method. This is how you set up your methods in PHP. Notice here I am allowing, because it's public, I'm allowing access to this function called setName. And these are all in pairs except for time that we'll take a look at in just a second. So I cannot directly access guest name, but I can get to it, pun intended, with this get name function. So you'll see in a second when I instantiate my object and use get name, this is what I'm allowing access to. So 3 of my 4 member variables, guest name, topic, and message, have get and sets. The timestamp only has a get because I create the timestamp with what is called a constructor. It's a special method of a class that is called when an object is created. So this is my class definition. It begins with the reserved or keyword class, and it's called forum entry. Notice here, this is just PHP code, and the file that it's in is called class_forum entry PHP. It's a good programming practice to put this into a separate directory so that it's a little bit more secure. I have an includes directory here that's to the ... is Unix for parent directory. So let's go up 2 steps, and then this will be to my root, and then off my root I have includes, and in that I have this file that contains my class. This is my actual class. Here's the file, forumentry.php. So we've created the class. We are now using the class via this require once. We've instantiated the object right here with the new, and now we fill the new object's data fields. We fill them, as mentioned, with the sets that are the methods defined in the class. So here I have set name. Notice the entry, that is the name of my object. So my object is going to have 3 fields that have to be filled: the name field, the topic field, and the message field. And they're filled with the methods set name, set topic, and set message. It seems like a roundabout way to do things, but look at the control that you have. Instead of just having a user create a message for my object, I can control it, and specifically I'm controlling it here. I'll show you what happens if the user was to enter a bunch of hard breaks. If I did not scrub the message area that's in the text area box, I would actually break my program when unserializing. I'll talk about unserializing and serializing in just a second. I've included a timestamp field here in my class definition. So here's my class definition. Notice it's private. Notice how it is filled. It's filled with the special function called construct. These are 2 underscores here. It looks like a long line, but it's actually 2 underscores and then the reserved or keyword construct. A constructor may also be created by giving a member function the same name as its class. So if this function right here was named forum entry, this would work as well. There's no underscores in front of forum entry if I'm going to be using the technique of giving a member function the same name as its class. Notice these, it looks like initial values, and they certainly are. I can tell, instead of getting a blank field, I'm actually going to get a field that says a guest, a topic, and a message. And notice here, here's a very convenient PHP function called time that I call. This will return a Unix style timestamp, which is the number of seconds from January 1st, 1970. And then I'll manipulate that with the date function. So the object is created, and the data fields were filled right here with the sets. And now I have to write the object to the file. To do that, I serialize the object. This is a very handy function of PHP's that will convert objects to strings and allow them to be stored in external files. So the serialize function is a standard PHP function, and notice I pass to it as its argument the entry, which was my object that I just created. everything ends up in my saved object, and then I simply write my saved object. You can see it right here. I write that to my file. If you open a file, you have to close it, and I do so here, and that's how my data is actually stored to my file. We'll see how it's parsed or processed in just a minute. Actually, this will conclude part 1 of discussion forum. I'll call this Guestbook OOP part 1.